Finally I get to do this. Hi. Yeah, today is my first 41 day of the 90 days. And I'm feeling a bit down. That is because I went to get my bike, and I cycled for 14 kilometers, and initially I was feeling great, amazing, but I hit a low, and I think it's to do with my blood sugar. I have a genetic mutation that regulates the blood sugar. It's called VDRtaq, and is homogeneous, which means two. I got it from the both parents. Anyway, so my methods of coping with this low is warm chamomile tea with a little bit of raw lucuma powder. And I wanted to share this because maybe some of you might struggle with this, and I think it's good to talk about these kind of issues, because this is like a deal breaker. Seriously, I felt the smell of the food downstairs. I don't eat cooked food anyway, but just feeling the smell made me feel really not even hungry, like wanting something. I feel like I want something, and this is coming also from a low emotional state I'm in at the moment. So yeah, finding ways to cope with it is important. I also had a big tomato juice, which helps a lot. I don't have any pineapple, otherwise I would have made a pineapple juice to cheer me up. But yeah, let me just give you a bit of background about my story. I was born with spina bifida, and only find out about it when I was 15, which means a genetic defect on the MTHFR gene. I didn't know about this until later on in 2016. So in 2016, I felt like I really needed to do something to change my health. I felt low energy, and a lot of issues I was struggling with. Like, I felt stuck in a situation. Okay, I felt stuck in the workplace and in my personal life and everywhere. So I felt that I needed to do something about it. So all my life I've practiced all sorts of fasting and sports and a lot of things. So I do have extensive knowledge with juicing. When I was young, basically my grandmother bought two juicers, like the typical centrifugal juicers, and they gave me juice to drink from my baby bottle, and that stayed with me until now. So juicing has always been my number one practice of living healthy. So yeah, I've been juicing, say, carrot juice. They were giving me beetroot juice and carrot juice since I was very, very little, like only a few months old. And I really, really liked it. And I was always asking for it. And also, like, they were giving me fruits. So I kind of developed a way of eating fruits and raw stuff since I was very young. I never understood why we needed to eat cooked food, because I was feeling exhausted after eating cooked food. And I kept on asking my father and mother, like, why do we have to do this? So they forced me to eat food, but later on I kind of imposed my choices and so on. So what else is important? Yeah, they gave me a lot of antibiotics since I was young, so they destroy my intestinal flora since it even had a chance to form. They were giving me antibiotics since I was a baby, so I had frequent colds and stuff, and yeah, that's my story. But the juicing has always helped my body regenerate since that young age. I don't even know if I would have survived with all these medication chemicals they were putting into my body. So juicing, it's my number one. Okay, so moving on with the story. I'm trying not to waffle too much. Yeah, so in 1986 I was 5 years old, and Chernobyl disaster happened, and I also had a brother of like 1 year old when this happened. So the radiation wave hit us pretty bad. So at the time, about 1 million children have died, including my brother, of leukemia, or various other cancers. It was really, really catastrophic. It marked me for life. In the process of this is how we find out about more about juicing. In Eastern Europe at the time, there were some famous people that they were using juicing to help people to get better from various illnesses, like difficult illnesses like cancer, leukemia, and various other illnesses. So we also went to see these people. One of them was Valery Popa, and I think Nikolai. I forget now. Sorry. There is another guy who is famous, and I went to speak to this guy, the second one, and I told him about my experience, how I don't feel well when I eat cooked food. So the guy really, really encouraged me to make my own choices in terms of food, and he says, "No, you're right. Like you should do how you feel." And he tried to explain to my father and to my mom and everything. So because my brother was ill at the time, my father tried to do the right thing. So we all started to juice and so on, and eat healthier. They still carried on eating meat, but I refused to eat meat. And initially I said I don't want to eat meat because my brother doesn't eat meat, so I don't want to eat meat either, and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, like I always refused meat because I didn't like it, like since an earlier age. But you have to understand that my father was not a person that you could say no to. He was an abuser as well, and I'm not very happy to tell that, but it's been hard, and anyway, let's move on. It's a touchy subject that I would speak about a bit later on. So based on that, I kind of managed to make my own choices in terms of what foods I would eat, and I would stick to mainly raw options. I was always struggling with tummy issues since I was young because of the medication that destroyed my intestinal flora and so on. So it was really, really difficult for me growing up. So I also practiced sports since I was 3 years old. Again, my father was a crazy man doing all sorts of sports, so he put me on a bike and swimming since I was 3. And I really, really enjoyed it because I was very energetic. Even though I was struggling with the health issues, I had a lot of energy, and I was keeping two families busy, probably because of the juicing. So I didn't mind. I actually enjoyed going to all this sports activity, and it's what helped me develop and kind of balance the fact that I had all these health issues and the fact that they destroyed my intestinal flora with all these antibiotics and so on. So it's kind of like it brought me some sort of balance in sport, and the fact that I was eating raw and the juicing and so on. So I carried on and with this kind of eating, but I still had to eat cooked food because they didn't allow me to eat much what I wanted. And I had an episode when I was 12 years old of a bile crisis that I thought that my stomach was going to explode of pain, and it was horrible. So that was the time when I said to my father, he of course told me like, oh, you're not allowed to feel sick, you're faking it and this and that, all sorts of rubbish stuff. But I said, no, I'm really not feeling well, and I don't care what you think, and I don't, just leave me alone. And then I said that from now on I'm gonna make my own food choices, and you're not to force me to eat anything that I don't want to. So he kind of started to leave me alone. He tried again a few times, but by this time I said, no, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm gonna do. I said I don't want to go again through that horrible pain that I had, and yeah. So by that time I kind of developed a lot of like tummy issues, and kind of when it was the time when they also started giving us like more vaccines, and I got vaccine damaged, and it's connected. That's the reason I want to tell you all this. So yeah, and when I was about 14, like like it took a while from when I was 12 towards 14, 15. Yeah, I was diagnosed with IBS, and also they discovered that I had spina bifida, and they told me that I'm gonna end up in a wheelchair. And when that happened, because it was the spina bifida is located on the T5, and that's quite a bad location to have something like that. And they said that I would become paralyzed or something, and my functions will decrease and all sorts of shit like that. So I was when I got the diagnostic, I was in the children's hospital, and I was sitting on one of the benches on the corridor, and I was very distressed and upset and almost crying. And next to me was a Chinese old-looking man, and he asked me what's wrong. And I explained to him, I said, like, look, they said I have spina bifida, and I will end up in a wheelchair and lose functions and all of this. And there was nobody with me at the time. I went alone. No, my mom wasn't there. Nobody was there. So the guy said to me, well, you have to exercise your core muscle. And he explained to me, like, you have to exercise your bum muscle, your stomach. Do you know how to do that? And I said, yeah, I've been doing sports all my life. So and he said, like, if you do this is not going to happen to you, I promise you. So I said with his words, I said, okay, and I turned my head around, I said with the words, and I actually believed it, and I turned around to kind of like say to him that, yes, you're right, I'm going to do this, and he was gone, like in a few seconds. I went running to search for him, and he was nowhere to be found, basically. So what I call that experience is like a helpful, you can say, extrasensorial experience that I have. But that was like the moment when I decided that I'm gonna take matters into my own hands and say, I don't care what the doctors say, this is my life, this is my body, and I have to do what I have to do to enjoy life and to thrive. And I can't have any of this crap of like ending up in a wheelchair. I said, no way. So from that day onwards, I decided that I put a wooden board in my bed, and I started sleeping on that and I exercised my core muscles. I was doing like 1,000, 1,500 ab crunches. I was at that level I reached, and I was cycling every day, and I was practicing tennis, and I did a lot of sports to try and really, really strengthen my body. Of course, I was continuing with the juicing, and I started to practice fasting of all sorts. I heard of like water fasts, and I tried that, and I tried with distilled water, which is basically dead water, and my body didn't agree with that. So you have to understand that me and my body, we have a very strong relationship from when I was little, because I had all these raw foods. I would instinctively know what I needed. Like, say for example, in the spring, I would crave leaves, like green leaves, red leaves, things like that, and I would eat those, and I would become stronger. And I would crave spinach, like children don't like spinach at all, but I would crave it. So my body always told me like what I needed, because I was so in tune with my body, with nature. I had this consciousness that I couldn't kill animals just for eating. So I said to my father, I said, like, how crazy is this? You are telling me that the cow makes moo and I should love her, and then you cut her, you slit her throat and you put it on my plate. I said, that's not right. So I always had this kind of like connection with nature and with myself, with fruits and veggies, and yeah. So I knew that was not right for me, all this water fast. So I tried going without food and water. So I did 7 days of this, just to see how I would feel. And it was like something that people were doing it at the time, like for religious purposes and all sorts of things like that. And I really wanted to try it. It was the most horrible first fast of 7 days that I had, because I was going to work, and I was working in a factory, and it was like 35 degrees plus, something like that. It was absolutely horrible. So what I did to actually help myself, I was going to the bathroom and wetting my mouth, cleansing my mouth every now and then. And that's how I made it. But yeah, it wasn't, I didn't had, I felt good initially, but I felt that that's not right, like I didn't know much at the time about fasting, but I started to, try various things and then see how my body would feel. So yeah, that's my experience. And then I started slowly, like, doing fast, like I was having my juices and trying more like water fast. It didn't work out. Eventually, I did only liquids, like I would still do my running and training and everything else, but I'll have liquids. I'll have like what you guys are calling the broth liquid, but just like strained, no fiber in it, like boiled vegetables alongside with my juicing. And I would do this kind of stuff, and I would get better and lose weight and clear the inflammation. And I was doing this periodically before I knew of any juice fasting or whatever. Yeah, so coming back to 2016, because I kind of lost that trail of thought. So in 2016, I decided that it was time for me to do something really drastically, like a major change, or the change was going to make me. And I didn't enjoy that because I didn't know what was coming. So I chose to be in control, and I decided at the time I heard about pranic breathing. Basically, I can't pronounce that word. My tongue will get screwed. So the guy was saying in the instructions that you will have a better experience if you would not eat. And as I was accustomed with fasting, I said, oh, that's not a problem for me. Or you could have just like fruits and anything like raw food. Then the next option was to have a juice fast or a water fast, or like even not have absolutely nothing for 8 days, no water, no food. So I said, interesting. I had that spiritual experience 7 days. So the reason I didn't tell you, when I did the 7 days in the first place, I had a major enlightenment, ESP, out of body experience, and so on. I was a bit afraid because I did it first time under no supervision. No spiritual master was guiding me, absolutely nothing. So I researched about it. I researched how the body can come out of the body, and how, you know, various bad things can happen. But because I was aware of these things, I knew that, okay, if I reach to that point, I'll come back and I will just make sure that, you know, I'll have something. Like, my mom knew about it, and I said, like, okay, just keep an eye on me. If you see that something wrong with me, just, like, you know, do something about it. So I wasn't totally on my own, but I had a major experience. And knowing that, when this guy said, okay, Ricardo Akahi is his name, and I really love him and appreciate the work he has done, pushing boundaries of human experience. So I decided to go for an 8-day dry fast, basically no water, no food, and to do the meditation and pranic breathing and everything, and it really helped. If I wasn't doing that meditation and the breathing and everything, I wouldn't have made it. It was really tough because I was working in the same time. I was working 12 hours, standing on my feet almost all day. But it was good that I was working 4 days on, 4 days off. So it really helped. So I managed to do that, and 4 days I started when I was off. So I had to go to work only 4 days, and then I had 4 days off. So a friend of mine that knew about it, she got a bit worried. So she said, oh, come to me for a few days. At least, like, I can take care of you. And I said, okay. So I went to Edinburgh, and it was really nice, and managed to reach to the end of my experience and to finish the 8-day process of learning the pranic breathing. And I had, again, a major spiritual experience, getting more and more connected with myself, with the universe, with nature. We went to a spring and in the woods, and it was so nice. Like, we went to the seaside as well. I was absorbing energy and feeding myself from nature. You know, it was absolutely mind-blowing. And I said, wow, this is really cool. So I was thinking to repeat it. So what I did, in order not to be too harsh on my body, I carried on with water fast. Oh, sorry, I forgot. So before I actually did the 8-day pranic breathing and dry fast and everything, I started with 26 days. I told myself, how is best to give my body the best nutrition and support before starting this experience of 8 days. So that was the time when I actually watched Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, and I got inspired, and I decided to go ahead, because obviously Joe has consulted with nutritionists. He went to the doctor. So obviously, like any human being, I would worry based on like whatever previous conditioning you have, that okay, the doctors know better than you, that you know you don't have much knowledge or whatever. Even though I just wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing for my body, and I didn't want to take any chances. So hearing Joe talking about this, I got really inspired, and I said, okay, sounds like a good plan. And I start juicing, but I didn't follow the juices Joe was doing, because I wasn't aware that there is an application, recipes, or any stuff like that. So I carried on with my normal juices that I was doing. So I'm doing beetroot and carrot, parsley, celery, and cucumber, and at the time I wasn't doing any spinach or anything like that, but I was doing orange juice. So I would have about a liter of orange juice and a liter of black grapes, because black grapes, they have antioxidants. The oranges, they're good for your lymphatic system and to squeeze out all the lymph from the tissues and so on. And everything had all the juices I was drinking, they had a good backup and reasoning behind it. So yeah, I've done this for 26 days. I was training all my juices, and I was experimenting with different kind of stuff like brassicas and kale and all sorts of things, but they were not, I wasn't feeling good from them, and I didn't know why. Okay, so I did the 26 days, fair enough, good. But when I reached to the 26th day, I felt that I can't drink any more juices. I felt really backed up, really stuck. I knew that when you start something like this, you would have to clean your colon or do enemas or anything to kind of like get you going. But because of my IBS, I couldn't do any of that. And it was just making things worse. So I didn't had any bowel movement until day 12. And day 12, everything started moving. So I just allow my body to do its own thing. I said, like, if there is an emotional cause, if there is a mental cause or anything like that, by forcing my body, I'm not going to do any good. So I just allow it to do its thing. Obviously, it was really, really, really hard. I passed the 3 days, got rid of the hunger, but my energy was crap. It was so low because I wasn't having bowel movements, obviously. All these toxins, they were still there. So I was also not drinking very much water or any hot teas to get things moving and so on. Because I had the knowledge, but I didn't know all these details that when you do a juice fast, you're basically, okay, you're not eating anything, so all these juices and the liquids are just going to go into your colon and then just mix with whatever is there. Just like, sorry for too much information, but just start to move things out from there. So that's why it's important to have a lot of liquids, and so that you can just move things out and then get rid of the toxins and years and years of plaque and whatever is there. So at the time I didn't know all this kind of stuff. I knew some bits, but not so much details, not so many details. Anyway, so yeah, it was from day 12. It was really, really hard still, because I still didn't have much energy. Things were starting to move, but not as they move now, for example. So that was my first longer fast that I've done with juicing and so on. I reached to day 26 and I just couldn't take any more sips of any juice whatsoever. And I said, okay, if that's what my body wants, let's do what my body needs. So I find out, so the timing was right. I find out about the 8-day process of pranic breathing and so on. So I did that, was successful, and then I broke my fast and I started to have water, like alkaline water this time, because I researched some more and I understood that distilled dead water is no good for your body. Whoever tells you that is good for your body is just like lying to you. I don't agree with that, but that's my experience. You can do whatever you want. So I was drinking alkaline water, because after a dry fast like this, you will have a lot of acidity, a lot of all this stuff, the junk that's in your body gets moved, and it's all thrown into your blood and your tissue, like from the tissues and in the circulation and in your lymph. So what you need to do is to alkalize your body, right? So I was drinking alkaline water with lemon and coconut water. These were my things, and I carried on for 21 more days of just water, coconut water, and a liter of celery juice. That was better for me. That I felt like I'm doing something right. I was having the coconut water from coconuts, and I was feeling good, but I felt something was not right with this. So Sorry, my friend is keep on messaging me. She needs my help, but she can wait for a bit. So yeah, I didn't know at the time what was with the coconut water. I'll tell you in a minute. So yeah, I've done the 21 days, and then I decided to take another holiday. And some friends of mine, they decided that they wanted to do the 8-day process, and they wanted to also do a bit of fasting. Initially, I thought they were gonna do the dry fasting, or yeah, But anyway, they reached the conclusion that it wasn't for them, and they wanted to do just maybe a day or 2 or 3 days, just to see how they feel with just drinking water mainly. So because I wanted to do a longer dry fast, because I really researched into it, and I heard only good things at the time that I consider good at the time about it. I started my fast before going in holiday, just few days. So because we went and we rented a cabin in Snowdonia, which is a very beautiful place, just to be connected with nature and make the fast easier. And so yeah, I started my fast earlier, and 3 days earlier, maybe no 4 days, because I wanted to do I wanted to reach beyond 7 days, because I knew that beyond 7 days, if you reach to 14 or something like that, it was really beneficial. But obviously I wasn't going to do anything to kill myself or anything like that. I know a lot of people, they say, oh, but that's not true, after 3 days you die. No, you don't die. I didn't die. So yeah, it ended up being 11.5 days. We also I repeated the 8-day process of like the meditations and everything else and so on, and it was really good. I actually was able to take long walks as well. I lost extreme weight in those days. Like it was in total 65 days. I was like somewhere around, I don't remember, maybe 45 kilos, maybe 43. I really don't remember. I'm 5'8", so that's 173 centimeters, and that is like underweight, that's for sure. Yeah, and everything was good, everything was fine. In these 65 days, when I was doing the water fast, I actually went home. So after the 7 days of like dry fasting and 26 days of juicing and some more days of water and coconut water and what do you want to call it, the celery juice, I did some testing, some blood tests, and my results, they were high, like in the range of high. So how can this be? I haven't eaten for so many days, yeah? So your body is really intelligent, and if you do this the right way, it's gonna work for you and, you know, for your benefit. So you need to learn all these things. That's why I want to share all this, like all my experience and my mistakes, and what did I learn from this. So okay, after I've done all of these things, I went back home to do another test, because what has happened, my left leg has swollen up very badly. It was twice or three times the size, and I had absolutely no clue. With all the research, the encyclopedias that I have in here, all the natural supplements, diet, nutrition, absolutely everything, I was baffled. I said, why is this happening? I said, all my research indicated that a dry fast would actually help with the burning of like any tumors or any bad material that's there, because what happens, the body gets into catabolism and basically eats all the dead tissue that's in the body. So it will eat everything that's not usable for the body, that's dead basically. So I said, it doesn't make any sense, you know, the science says this, but yet I'm having this effects. So I went to do a Doppler scan, like a venous scan, and I had an operation a few years ago, which I nearly died on the table because the guy was not a real doctor, but luckily his son was a real doctor and he saved my life. But I was left with some blood clots on my leg, in my leg, like deep vein thrombosis, which again, like I managed to shrink by using, what did I use? I use sea greens, and that somehow just like reduced the swelling. The doctor said, oh, your leg is always going to be like this. No, 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 no. Doctors were wrong again. I use sea greens and again juicing, and my leg has come back to normal. So yeah, I kind of stopped listening to doctors after all these experiences, in a way. Like, I only go to a doctor if there is an emergency, like broken bones, like life-threatening emergencies, operations, things like that that I can't solve with the nutrition and knowledge that I have. But even these, like when you are actually bringing your body, you're putting the good nutrition into it, your body heals itself. It's unbelievable. Like, I had a wasp that stung me, and I usually am allergic to wasps and stuff. In 2 hours, nothing was there. Like, I looked, nothing was there. A friend of mine that saw that what happened, we were in the park, asked me like, is it still there? No, it's not, it's gone. I was like shocked. How can it be, you know? So any cuts that I have, they heal much faster and things like that, you know. The only problem that I have is the inflammation that I'm trying to sort out now. So, okay, coming back to the story. So the doctor that did the Doppler scan, the venous scan, suspected that I had thrombophilia. So he sent me to the hospital to do some genetic testing, and that's how I find out about MTHFR. That was the only thing that came back, mutations, and I was like, what is this? I have no idea. And there were everywhere on the internet, it was like, oh, it's nothing, you know, just genetic, doesn't matter, you know, it can manifest or it cannot manifest depending on the environment and many other factors and so on. So I kind of left it like that, but I was like struggling. I said, my leg is still swollen, I don't know what this MTHFR means, and so on. So I was baffled, and I said, I looked online and I came across Dr. Ben Lynch and Dr. Amiasco. So it was some bad publicity about Amiasco, and so I went ahead with the advice of Dr. Ben Lynch, and that was really, really, really bad. Why? The guy was recommended at the time, 2016, to have massive doses of methyl B12 and methylfolate for MTHFR. That is the worst thing that I've ever had in my life, the worst advice. Why? Well, MTHFR, okay, it's a mutation, but there are other mutations that are in the body, and perhaps I should separate the videos, maybe. Yeah.